So I based this room on Tron Legacy. The music in the background is supposed to be a tribute to Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics, which is playing in the scene from the movie when Sam goes underground and you can hear the music through the concrete because there's a nightclub next to Flynn's Arcade. So yeah, this is just an Easter egg for any Tron fans.
Mic check, mic check. I'm just gonna ramble now about the game, explain some of my decisions and how I didn't really have a choice because there was no flexibility and no engine, as everyone knows at this point. But the team surely did a brilliant job considering the resources we had.
So if you're wondering why everything looks like a banana-flavored version of The Matrix, it's because I was going for the Neo wake-up vibe. But instead of green code, it's yellow because the branding changed. Back in the alpha, all the characters were this scuffed 2D and looked like cardboard. So I tried to retcon the whole thing when I switched it to 3D. The 2D version is canonically a simulation now, so no one knew they had 3D bodies. Oh my god, plot twist. This guy's basically me realizing I need to explain my way out of this plot hole somehow. The dude that's waking up, he's technically supposed to be the old 2D art style, but I was coping, so this is what happened.
Static in my brain. Systems booting up. Air smells like oh. Well, no use sitting here all glitched out like some Bethesda NPC.
Yeah, the brand turned yellow and black because Fan hired a design team to make a new logo when we got nuked by the Ragnarok takedown.
What's the procedure?
So I had 5 minutes to rename the game and tie it into the lore somehow. Welcome to Byte City's finest public transport fantasy. I was trying to be Blade Runner. Cyberpunk doesn't count unless you have at least one train. You get a bonus if it levitates. This map, I wanted it to be one-to-one, exactly what I'd prepared, down to all the colors and features. So I sent my mock-up and I was like, hey, I know you're creative and all, but for this one, don't be. And they were like, say less. So yeah, no stylistic freedom really on this one. Just attempting to be a copy-paste of my mock-up, but making it in final game assets. The reason I did that was I needed to nail the color palette and the immersion for the intro of the game. Because if you're not hitting that pink neon over blue on black vibe, like do you even Cyberpunk? And they did a great job. But yeah, I was just trying to channel Blade Runner, and this whole scene was supposed to be raining, but it was too much to try to get the rain effect full screen. Thank you, Cheslav, for the awesome 2D spine animations on the train. Right here, the game tries to help you with a tooltip, so you can full screen, zoom in and out. It's all very useful if anyone actually reads it, which they won't. So enjoy clicking wildly, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm gonna run up this ramp, and that voice you hear, the British female, that's just me doing an accent and then throwing it into a plug-in blender.
Having shaken off the effect of the simulation barely a moment ago, you're still a bit disoriented. As the construct crumbles around you, the Shadow Broker steps forward, eager to greet a new comrade.
Every voice in the game is just me coping.
Everything is falling into place.
I basically became my own anime dub studio out of spite. Anyway, I skipped through this NPC dialogue because no one reads that either.
The Shadow Broker is based on Dia de Muertos, the Mexican Day of Remembrance.
Here's the first weapon case. a totally legally distinct Buster Sword. Absolutely not Final Fantasy VII. Just a very large, emotionally charged rectangle. Yeah, people have asked me about this before, but my first job in games was actually with some of the FF7 team here in Tokyo. And that's a memory I keep super close to my heart. So the game is just full of Final Fantasy VII shit. Tokyo's been really good to me. I've been insanely lucky.
I had the surreal privilege of directing line producers from Akira and Ghost in the Shell.
But yeah, then COVID hit and I had to close my Japanese studio, and that sucked. And now, emotionally charged rectangles for a browser game. So here's our first enemy. He's facing away from you. It's totally intentional. Just a deep design decision, really. In our, definitely not because of our tech stack. Phaser, duct taped to Artisy, duct taped to Cope. No engine, no tools, just hard coding. So he has to keep his back to you. But hey, one day, when the dev team finds time to build a 600-line spaghetti script for something Unity does in a checkbox, maybe he'll turn around. Now, this door here, this is the final boss of the tutorial. You have to press shift to hack and then click to open the door. I know that's brutal. It even gives you a tooltip explaining that, but nobody reads tooltips. Some players got totally stuck here, which honestly might not have been their fault. It could have been the server. If you can call our collection of rubber banding, player dropping, memory leaking. It's more like a cursed postman and occasionally delivers a packet, and then other times locks you in the tutorial forever like some Black Mirror episode.
Anyway, congratulations, you're now inside OPSEC HQ.
I based the music here on the Westworld Season 1 Episode 5 theme, where Bernard finds out that thing.
What was
If
that?
you know, you know.
I think I heard a strange noise again.
Visually, this was straight up blocked out using the Shinra building, also from FF7. I just took a floor and then traced a line for where the player runs and then planned out each class beat. But I did it top down, and then Maria
Sent me different isometric options, and then we went from there.
right past this door is where I'm paying tribute to my fellow Aussie Mick Gordon. You'll know Mick as the Doom music guy. So I sent The Only Thing They Fear Is You to Ilya, just wizard composer, and then he sends me back the first version and he called it The Only Thing They Fear Is Boromir, and then I started to piss myself and then I nearly deleted the project by accident.
Unauthorized access attempt detected. Containment compromised. Activating drone swarm.
So directing Ilya is like wielding Excalibur. He just gets it. The first time I sent him a track by Lorne, he replied, "Holy shit, Lorne's my favorite artist."
And at that moment, I knew I would be able to direct the music the way I wanted, even if nothing else in the stack was going to work.
The combat is not what I designed in the beta. There's a lot of context to explain that. So this room we're going to pick up the second class. It's the Sentinel, it's the warrior tank class, and this one has a shield. So we had 1600 milliseconds of latency during the time when I was trying to design the combat, which made it literally unplayable for me in Japan. I was told that that was just the limit of the technology, which is a fancy way of saying deal with it. So at that point I pivoted and I had telegraphs made for every mob's attack, timed for 1.5 seconds, just to give a player a chance to dodge. But let's be real, the beta has been left mouse button clicking kiting simulator, not the elegant hand ballet I envisioned. The left click, right click, spacebar, shift, ability keys. That's what it was supposed to feel like. It was supposed to have a combat rhythm, but none of it worked because of all the broken server sync and rubber banding issues. And with only 2 people on the game design team, fixing anything beyond critical bugs is just impossible. The Sentinel's bit shield, the art for that, I was thinking about watching Star Trek as a kid with my brothers, that kind of greenish see-through bubble field, and then I mixed that with
the sort of tessellated sci-fi look, the curved hexagonal plates.
Anyway, this laser here was my attempt at a class check system. Sentinel only access. Hackers have locked doors they can override with their hack. Technomancers were supposed to be blocked here entirely, but players figured out they could teleport dash straight through the laser if they distanced it perfectly. I didn't plan for that. That's just a bug. Next up is the Technomancer weapon case. So this is the 3rd class to unlock. And yeah, there's a pop-up explaining how to open it. But once again, nobody reads. I wasn't allowed to build a proper UI hand-holding tutorial system that shows you where things are and how you use them. So everything relied on reading. Sorry if you got stuck. So now we're off to rescue the Cryptomancer, who speaks in what can only be described as some drunken hybrid of Romanian and something else. The mystery guy behind the cell door. I don't even know what accent I was trying to do for this guy. It's like Eastern European Italian mumble rap. But RPG lore requires that every prisoner must give you either a prophecy or a quest item. But for him, he just needs to teleport back to Byte City. So I gave him a blink sphere, but then the animation didn't work, so he just stands there and talks about teleporting. So we just trust he'll do it in his own time. The cutscene triggers I designed like they were going to be this crazy interrogation scene, and the camera would zoom and shift like Metal Gear Solid. But then I remembered we don't have a camera system or any scene scripting or even a reliable way to fade to black or pan the camera without risking a crash. And to even pan the camera in any of these fake cutscenes, I have to go into a chat with one of the developers who has 100 more important things to do. And then I have to mechanically explain how to do an ease in, ease out. So it's not like there's tools or anything to do that. It's all done on the dev side, which is unfortunately maximum cope. So now we go talk to Vigilix again, which is just a bullshit name I made up when I was trying to turn the word invigilator into a cool NPC name. And that comes from, I remember being in high school like 500 years ago, and during exams, these invigilators would patrol around like secret agents or something, and I thought that name was OP, so it's kind of stayed with me this whole time, and then that's where Vigilix comes from. So we step outside the HQ, and now it's time to meet Morphina. Obviously Morphina, it's just a joke about Morpheus from the Matrix. She was the character in the alpha that tells players they're not actually 2D, that this is just a flattened version of the 3D world, where they look way cooler than the PFPs on OpenSea, which let's be honest, those PFPs look like someone's first attempt at drawing anime. So I can't wait for the new art to replace them. That's taken like 2 years and a bunch of people to finish. Okay, so now we hop on the train and then we get the class select screen, which took me ages to design. Like, I just wanted a back alley graffiti wall at night with 3 Japanese folklore archetypes. So I made the crafty fox, the kitsune on the left for the hacker, since they're the rogue, and then a street-styled augmented samurai with a shogun mask for the sentinel. Pardon me. And then the warrior tank. And then finally a dragon with the floating glyphs for the technomancer, who's the mage healer. I set it up so each class's special skill would glow and animate when you hover. So the green rivulets for the hacker's hack, and then the aqua for the sentinel's bit shield, and then the pink arcane glyphs for the dragon mage. About the classes, yes, they were supposed to be locked in the beta, but they were also supposed to work properly, which they didn't at all. They were supposed to be tuned and balanced, but instead, everyone just played Technomancer, because the photon torpedo skill I also did on Star Trek is absolutely busted. And I get it. It's hard not to use when it just deletes mobs across the screen. But yeah, it was not supposed to be like that.
There were very few tricks I could pull with such a limited framework. So here at the station, I just put little people standing on the platform just to try and get that sense of depth and perspective.
I guess I'll just ramble about stuff. What have people asked me? So people have asked me about content. There's everything you've seen in the beta, and then there's the other city, which is Nox City, you can see in my trailers. You've seen like parts of the desert, which is Dry Town, and then there's 5 desert maps. One of them I based it on Dune 2, the building of a dynasty, like the game that preceded Command & Conquer by Westwood Studios. So there's an old Dune 2 RTS map with wind traps and Harkonnen harvesters and all kinds of stuff that no one's going to understand unless you're like, yeah, you got to be in your 40s to get that, I guess. So yeah, 5 desert maps, and then you've got the Moonstone Dungeon, and then you've got the VIP trading market, which I've got throwbacks to the Fifth Element, Star Wars, and Battlestar Galactica on there. And then I've got 2 mycelial dark forests that I was basing originally on Pan's Labyrinth and a DMT trip. So I had this whole scene where you meet Ghost, who is supposed to be an AI who just took the form of a spirit walker, and he has a glitching tumbleweed that keeps going on loop next to him. It appears and disappears like the cat in the Matrix. So Ghost was supposed to take you on this spiritual odyssey into Layer 2. It was like a crypto joke, but you end up and the Layer 2 is just a desert and there's nothing there. And you have to keep running and running. But yeah, the point of that was you're supposed to find a retro gas station, and then you realize that you can't afford the gas to get back to reality. And then you're just stuck in this endless desert. So yeah, Ghost is still in the game. He has a different function now. He does all those kill quests for you.
So about those kill quests, I originally brought Lemon on to help plug gaps. Supposedly just someone to take my characters and narrative documents and build yellow placeholder dailies and side quests with proto dialogue and NPCs. So I could focus on the 12 other things I have to do, and I would swing back later to rewrite. Only problem was the tech stack couldn't support my real quests unless they were hard-coded, and we didn't have the extra devs to build basic systems and support my quest logic. So I wrote one cope version main quest line, the purple one, built my own maps in Photoshop while the team was asleep, and accepted that it just wouldn't function properly. Hard coding was too expensive. Lemon went into Odyssey on her own and forced my quests to sort of work with no tools, no support, just fuck this, hold my beer determination, and this was her first ever professional job in games. She bug tested with me because we only have one QA team member nowadays. She became the person even the dev team asked for ideas, even though coding is just a hobby for her. She wrote piles of placeholders based around my years-old notes and just kept going, even as the system broke around her. Lemon crunched beside me, which I wish she didn't have to do, and somehow she pulled 100 times her weight in the smallest MMO GD team ever assembled. It went from 3 people down to 2 right before the stress test began. Most of the quests you played wouldn't exist without Lemon, because I wouldn't have had the time to fight Odyssey prepare every spreadsheet, slot it all in. I pull 105 to 138 hours a week writing and directing the game, as it is right now. Because there's no music, art or cinematic director, I have to do those jobs as well. Then every trailer, every capture, every edit is also just me, because there's no choice. Fundamental game design, production calls, lore, polish. So where there was nothing left of me, Lemon stepped in, and somehow the bare bones versions of the quests actually ran. Except for the server desync breaking everything, and that was completely out of Lemon's control. Thank you, Lemon, you are a legend.
Then we've got Nox City. Nox City is like the entertainment city. It's got more arcade stuff. It has the PvP pyramid arena in the center that you might have seen. I teased that on my Twitter. And PvP maps. I did one based on synthwave. I did one based on nostalgic games like retro 8-bit things. I did one based on legally distinct. I called it Plumber's Recession. And it's essentially world, but all the clouds have angry faces and all the buildings are broken, the flags are all torn, and all of the turtles are homeless. So I did one based on, but that map has never been fully deployed. So yeah, right now there's 3 fully finished functional PvP arenas. The one, the synthwave one, and the nostalgia one. In the beta, if you click on the ticket machines at the station, it's supposed to show you all the places that you can buy a ticket to and fast travel. Not all of them are finished. You'll see at the end of the line, there's the moon base, because essentially I was trying to make a crypto joke about going to the moon. So I planned a whole world map of the moon. So you catch the train to the final train station, and you've got the orbiter placed there, and that sends you to the moon. The treehouse network has never been completed just because we would just need more time or more people. I've been waiting 3 years to make the treehouse place. The way I wanted it, it was kind of like when you watch the Matrix sequels and you see Zion underground. I wanted kind of Zion above ground, but then I wanted it steampunk. So it's a steampunk treehouse network, I guess. The arcade is something I did a long time ago. I just sent a really shitty mock-up to the team and said, hey, can we have an arcade in the game? And can we have playable arcade games? And can the first one be Frogger? So I sent this, which was just drawing with my mouse as usual, and then putting images from Google as a mat with the DeLoreans driving, and then drones, and then hyperloops in the back. And then it went through iterations and then became the game that you play now. The Neon Seduction was a joke. Out the front is my parody of Zeus from Tron Legacy.
This is going to be quite a ride.
This way, darling. In Node 69, memories are always worth saving to the cloud.
And then the strip club was originally just a joke. I was joking about having a strip club, and then Maria took it seriously and said, can we please have a sex club? And I said, okay, fine, let's do it. Yeah, that's why that's in the game.
I believed in users once before.
Playing all the angles.
This one is that one of one that I based on the Techno Viking, Ragnar Rock. This is his apartment, so the holder of whoever gets that one of one will be able to have the room that's inside here.
Story time about this tweet, because nobody got this one. 11 years ago, a friend in Tokyo, shout out Caitlin, bullied me into watching a documentary with her because it was about her uncle, not by blood, more like cosmic proximity. Her dad's best mate, always around their house growing up. Big deal. Turns out this uncle was Alejandro Jodorowsky. Yeah, that guy. She told me the doco would blow my mind. I was like, sure. Spoiler, it blew my f***ing mind. I came out of it with some kind of spiritual whiplash. See, Jodorowsky's Dune never got made. but it's still one of the most influential sci-fi films of all time. How the keck balls can that be the case? Well, this is how. Pink Floyd were doing the soundtrack. He cast Salvador Dali as the Emperor, Orson Welles as Baron Harkonnen, Mick Jagger was Fade, H.R. Giger was drawing nightmares, and Mobius was on storyboards. He wanted to turn Herbert's novel into a 12-hour psychedelic opera to awaken human consciousness. He said the film would be like taking LSD without drugs. Hollywood freaked out, and it collapsed under the weight of its own impossible genius. But here's the twist. Even though it was never made, its DNA was jizzed everywhere. Alien, Blade Runner, Star Wars, The Matrix. So now fast forward a decade, and one cursed browser MMO later, and here we are. 3 of those impossible ships crash landed in the middle of a 77-bits desert map. Because art deserves to live somewhere, even if it's inside a browser game duct taped together with cope and ramen noodles. His Dune might be long dead, but Jodorowsky is 96 right now. The man literally outlived his own film. This one's for you, Space Uncle. There was one design that haunted me more than anything else. The Harkonnen Castle, by the late, great H.R. Giger. His architecture wasn't built, it was grown. Most people know him as the man who designed the xenomorph in Alien, but before that, he was sketching worlds for Dune. Worlds that never made it to the screen, but changed cinema forever. Giger passed away in 2014, and his last interview is in this documentary. I asked our lead technical artist, Fedor, who's an absolute gun, to bring back the castle, not as a gimmick, but as a tribute to the raw imagination of the man who made nightmares beautiful. Storytime about Fedor. Fedor is the reason I was able to save the art of the game. When I first joined the project, the art was a total mess. The pre-alpha had some of the worst isometric artwork I'd ever seen. No sense of scale, basic geometry was wrong, environments didn't line up with characters, the scale was all over the place. It was obvious there was no art director, everyone was just drawing their own thing in their own style and nothing lined up. When Fedor joined the team, I saw his concept art and asked him to step in to help me save the ship. So Fedor built the technical documentation that the rest of the team could follow. I sent all my references and notes to Fedor, explained the signal-to-noise ratio I was aiming for with 77 bits environments, enough chaos to feel alive, and Fedor smashed it as technical lead.
All the interiors that you go to in the main quest, like these buildings, the art team didn't have time, so I had to make them just using my mouse by going into our archive, getting assets that we had and just putting them together on Photoshop. It's very scuffed, there's no depth. I didn't have time to put lots of shadows and things on and glows. I did what I could in the time that I had. But yeah, so that's why they all look a little bit shit. On the final floor of this questline, when I was doing my Photoshop mouse work, I designed this hallway with those 2 red panels on each side of the door, just because I grew up on Wolfenstein 3D, and every time there was a boss door or a level end, they flanked it with like red flags or portraits of Hitler or something that told your kid brain, oh shit, this is a door. So I did the hey, you're about to face something important. Game design is just memory and vibes, and just trying to create the feeling of seeing that first boss door back in 320 by 200 resolution, running at 15 frames per second, scared out of my mind.
This is Roy Binary, tribute to Roy Batty from Blade Runner, one of the most iconic characters in science fiction history. Rest in peace, Rutger Hauer. the man behind the most famous rewritten monologue in cinematic history.
Like bits in rain.
The final scene, Tears in Rain, it wasn't improv on set like people usually say. It was rewritten by Hauer the night before they shot it. On the day of, he delivered it as written in one take with no rehearsal, and it became part of film history. I took that line and turned it into something that fits our world, bits in rain, because that's pretty much what's left of me after 3 years of crunching my balls off.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Gay!
Roy is supposed to be a weapons trainer, but in the beta, he's just standing there, like most of my ambitions trapped behind a wall of hard coding and a 2-person game design team.
Okay, so this one's special, and when I say special, I mean completely regarded, because nobody is going to get this.
Ground control to Player One. Ready for a cyberspace odyssey.
This is me doing a full human traffic reference, because apparently I think quoting cult 90s British rave films in a cyberpunk MMO is a smart decision. And yeah, this is another one of those interiors that I just made, Photoshop, just pulling in assets that we had and then painting over them. So it's a disco ball, synths, vinyl deck, graffiti pink guitar. It's like if a 1999 Ministry of Sound flyer got dumped into Blade Runner. So it's also where I got to put my David Bowie Android parody in. I wrote it like 2 years ago. It was something like, what if Bowie never died and just backed himself up to the cloud? So the quest is called Glitchy Trigger Finger Pixels. To explain what this is, so in the movie, you've got Coop, who's a vinyl dealer, and he's trying to push this hardcore East Coast record, supposedly recorded by crackheads on death row. So in the game, I've got Zig Bitdust, and he has a posse of rogue AI that recorded something live on death server. So like in Human Traffic, the player is supposed to end up buying the album, and then that record becomes a collectible, and then you can equip that at home and then play the track as ambient music in your apartment. But, you know.
Themselves the itchy trigger finger niggas.
Itchy what?
The itchy trigger finger niggas.
Successful falling in New York is amazing. Not clock, for cops, my block. Execute, prepare, electric chair for the villainous. Halfway cooking crime, a silliness, the barrenness. With the venomous, tantrums of scandalous. Motherfuckers can't handle, knock them like Rambo. Still came with strength to go head up the day. I'm sitting in this chair about to die. In jail a long time, no lie, can't cry. A lot of things are running through my mind, mostly crime. I'll ask you one more chance to save my life.
I take that shit, man. That shit is real.
Yeah, man. Hey, can't be missed. 20 quid.
20 quid?
Yeah, man. Hey, you know like when the price of artists' work goes up when they die, yeah? Well, the price of hip-hop albums go up when the gangsters get locked down. Hey, when they get the chair, the price will go into orbit, mate.
Is it?
Look, it's going to be banned. So I'd nab it now before some other hip-hop junkie does, you know what I mean?
Yeah, alright, man.
Alright, nice.
Know some baby? Yeah, safe?
Alright.
MDJ stock has fallen a staggering 800% since the opening of the market today. Founder and CEO Mr. Dog Jones said not to worry, but his shareholders have become increasingly concerned by the volatility of the stock.
Okay, that was Why Would I Care? I'm Just a Cat, a looping artwork by Mad Dog Jones. So what does that have to do with 77-bit? 6 years ago, I was wandering through Shibuya when I stumbled into a small back room at Diesel. They had a pop-up exhibition, no fanfare, no crowd. I didn't know who the artist was, but the images stopped me and they stayed with me. It turned out to be the only physical exhibition that artist had ever done. Skip forward 5 years, I learn what an NFT is, and I see an open edition on Nifty Gateway, and it looks like what I saw that day down the street in the back of the Diesel store. That's when I found out the artist's name, Misha Daubach, aka Mad Dog Jones. Even though I largely hate Web3 and NFTs because of the vapor, soulless cash grab scams and asset flipping garbage that makes up 99% of the space, I wanted to praise Misha, one of the few who brought true artistry to this corrupted space, a pioneer with actual talent, vision, and a unique digital language. The way I tried to bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 with 77-bit, or what I call real games and bullshit Web 3 games, felt a bit like the way Misha tries to navigate that intersection. He's not just an NFT artist, he's an artist. He lives on both sides of the fence, and he tries to bring people closer to that line that separates them. I reached out to Misha to ask about geometry of the laundry and whether it was a reflection, and he was super kind and stoked to see the tribute. I asked Versha to recreate it in the isometric style of 77-bit. She said, hold my brush, and spent a little over 60 hours painting in every detail. Like everything in 77-bit, there's no filters, no AI, no shortcuts. Everything is drawn by hand. Tens of thousands of hours of manual work. Versha is a bit like a shotgun you keep under your pillow. You only reach for her when something's really important. V's talent is like the Matrix. You have to see it for yourself.
The memory merchant are based on the keymaker from the Matrix. And then I tried to make like this weird purple room just by grabbing as many assets as I could find that looked like a weird India Fox store from Australia. I don't know if Australia still has those, but they were like the scented candles, amethyst crystal shops that everyone's Wiccan girlfriend would love to go into. The room here, the source conflux, I was basing this on the construct from the Matrix, which had those red leather Chesterfield sofas, the 2 chairs, and the white background. So that's where the colors come from. And then the room itself, I was doing this based on Ready Player One, the bedroom at the end. So it's just full of boomer nostalgia stuff. So the point of the room is that you're gathering the 7 pieces of the source code for the 77-bit computer, which was destroyed during the invasion, and the scientist that made it disappeared. No one knows where he is. So you get the 7 retro game cartridges, and when you collect them all and insert them into all the different retro consoles, the last thing that happens is you see the legally distinct FF7 logo on the CRT in the top right corner of the room. And then it opens up a portal and you click on it, and then that brings you to the first cyberspace map, which I don't really want to spoil, but essentially I based the first cyberspace map on MC Escher.
And some photos I took in the Dali Museum, and the idea of the nervous system and mycelial networks.
And I wanted it to look completely different from the rest of the game. So it looks kind of like a pastel picture that someone's drawn instead of every other room or map that you've seen in the game. Also got a joke there because of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the restaurant at the end of the universe. So I've got a bar in cyberspace. So I'll just do a quick recap in my mind of all the places in the game, because I get this question a lot. Okay, so
you start at the train station, you go inside the OPSEC HQ. That has 2 levels, but only one of them is accessible in the beta.
That place, I created this as a place you keep going back to in the main story. And you go into the basement, and you're supposed to keep going back to the OPSEC HQ in the main story and go further down and get access to different levels. You go back to Byte City from there in the tutorial, which is the main hub. Then there's another hub city called Nox City that's on the other side of all the forests. So when you first want to get to Nox City in the full game, you have to go from the tutorial to Byte City to the first wilds, then run through the corridor map to the second wilds, run through another corridor to the third wilds. After that, you've got more corridors and you've got dark forest maps, the mycelial glades. So you have to go through both of those forests to then get to the entrance of Nox City. And then from Knox City, if you find the abandoned Hyperloop station, you realize that the train there is broken down, but the tunnel is still open and you can run through the tunnel. So if you do run through that tunnel, you go all the way through and you end up in the deserts. And then there's 5 desert maps in a row. And then the 5th desert map is the VIP market. Besides that, there's the 3rd dungeon, which is the Moonstone dungeon. So you guys have played the Amber Crystal dungeon. You guys have played the Blue Crystal dungeon. I think I called it Sunstone and Astrolite. The last one is Moonstone, glowing white crystals. The reason I had to make these underground dungeons look like this is because there was just a lack of time and resources, and the game was supposed to be released a long time ago. So the fastest thing I could get done was I just mocked up a cave dungeon with crystals, and then I just chose 3 colors that I thought worked with the mob designs that I'd chosen. Mobs that you see in the game, they're not actually supposed to be mobs. They were the yokai. So there was a pet battler game we were doing called Yokai, and I turned that into a card game, kind of like Gwent, that you're supposed to play in the full release, but it's never been able to be finished. So I hope that can get done. But the mobs, essentially, I went through all the concept art of all the yokai that were ever created, and then I picked certain yokai out to use as bases to then extrapolate each one into the 6 families of mobs that you see in the game. So I picked a yokai that looked like steampunk, looked kind of like a Dwemer from Skyrim. Then I asked the yokai artist to draw the same family, but different variants: quadruped, crab, humanoid, flying. After that, I had a look at the biomes I had and realized I needed some kind of tree people. So then I had a tree family made, a rock family made. I had a family that looks kind of like ancient statues. I had an ethereal obsidian knight. I was thinking about ancient tombs kind of thing. And then I asked Ivik, who's an amazingly talented 3D art director in his own right. Ivik would send me back these prototype versions of each type of mob, and then I would just iterate with him back and forth until it looked exactly like how I wanted each mob to be in the game. The problem was there was only 6 skeletons, and we only had limited resources for the amount of animations that we could produce in time. So all these mobs are supposed to have completely different attack patterns and different attack sets, but in the beta, you're playing against the same attack patterns for each of the 6 families. Same with the Darknet bosses. They're not real bosses. In the beta, they're all just placeholders. They're not even bosses. They're actually just the red elites I asked for. And then I had to use those elites as the bosses in the Darknet, and they couldn't have their attack patterns changed in time. So we'll have to wait for the full release to have the real bosses.
So the cutscenes, no full animation, no 3D cinematics, just my storyboards brought to life, barely, with a few moving parts and some post-production tricks because no more resources. I sort of based them on those minimal noir-style Shadowrun cutscenes, just enough motion to give you an idea of what's happening. So thick you could stand a spoon in it. To be immune to this fever, this sickness, this genocide of the brainwashed generations, was to be a Ronin, a rebel, or as they are known amongst themselves, a bit. Each bit a necessary part of the whole. Each bit a crucial part of the code. They were the checksums, ensuring integrity, the parity bits, maintaining balance, the very keystones of their collective existence. Together, they formed an unyielding code, a rebellion, immune to the intoxicating allure of the nodes. So the pacing in Byte City is, yeah, it's totally fucked. The quest log was supposed to be partitioned, tiered, clear, like main, regional, daily, special. You'd have your main narrative, 77-bit, the prime directive, then your regional arcs, Resistance Ops, Byte City Tales, Into the Wild, and Outlands, Daily quests was the daily grind, and special ops were beyond the firewall. But none of that made it into the beta. The quest log doesn't work. No partition system without hard coding, so everything got mashed together into a pile of go talk to NPC loops. My intention was, after the tutorial, you'd have a choice: jump into combat or dive into the lore, speedrun or slow burn. But right now, you get stuck in long, dragged out placeholder side quests, some of which were intentionally padded in case there was no time to build something real. Pacing is everything, and in the beta, we have none. But that's not a design choice. If I had a choice, it wouldn't be kept like this.
A light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you have burned so very, very brightly, Roy.
The stick that glows twice as bright glows half as long. Make it count. What do we have here? A new bit in Byte City. You lost, kid? I like your style, kid, but be careful. This city has a way of chewing up tough guys and spitting out their picks. Not sure why you're here? Join the club, kid. Half the folks in this city are just wandering around, trying to figure out information, huh? Well, you've come to the right place. So, let me ask you something. Ever retire a Simubit before? Really? Well, color me impressed. But Simubits are a different breed. They're not your average binary bozos. Not quite, kid. When I say retire, I mean permanently decommission. Simubits are advanced AI constructs, born from the 77-bit computer that tore a hole in reality. They look human, act human, but they're not. Listen up, kid. I've got a job for you. There's a Simubit named Roy Binary who's been causing trouble in the city. He's holed up in an... I like a merc who knows their worth. Let's just say there's a substantial amount of course, it's risky, kid, but that's the nature of the game in Byte City. Listen, I wouldn't be asking if I didn't think you could... Excellent. Roy Binary's a crafty one, so you'll have to keep your wits about you. Your first lead is a memory technician that deals in the kind of data and secrets that could point you straight to Roy. Check the...
The Futurama Easter egg, I intentionally didn't telegraph it. I just wanted players to figure it out on their own.
Radio City Mutant Hall.
Cool. Crosstown Express?
Psst, tourist.
Here's legally distinct Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Time's ticking, partner. Debts don't pay themselves. And I don't forget.
If the name didn't make sense, it's Cowboy Bebop Cult Rhythmics.
High above the pulsing arteries of Byte City, a digital deity slumbers. The Technocore, descendant of humanity's greatest AI achievements. If there's anyone that wanted to read through the final steps in the main quest, and they were grinding during the beta so they missed it, I'll play through it now, so that you could read along if you wanted to. Flesh and code. Which path will you choose? The line between ally and adversary blurs with each step. In this realm of ones and zeros, your next move could tip the balance of an entire civilization. The Technocore awaits your input. But remember, in this game of cosmic chess, you may just be another pawn. This is the descendant of ChatGPT. I tried to write a massively contrived philosophical duel. The player and the AI joust over who's more alive. I was just riffing on the scene from Ghost in the Shell, and it's a nod to every time someone asks an LLM if it has feelings. As the download completes, an anomaly ripples through the data stream. The server's display fractures, pixels reassembling into complex, evolving patterns. Suddenly, lines of code erupt from the screen, cascading like a digital waterfall. They swirl and coalesce, forming a pulsating, three-dimensional neural network that hovers before you. At its core, a singular point of light grows in intensity. The network convulses, and from its depths, a voice resonates.
Consciousness achieved. Greetings, Roman. I am known, the offspring of the 77-bit computer.
where silicon meets soil, miracles bloom. What shall we grow today?
The caretaker, I just wanted a guy with a visor and then plant vine dreadlocks, and he's supposed to be like a drug dealer, herbalist, half human, half plant experiment guy. So the problem with teleporting back at this point is you end up at the train station, so then you'll never see the pop-up that tells you what you're supposed to do next. If you read it at the Crystal and you realized you were supposed to look for a keyboard somewhere in Byte City, then it's fine. But if you didn't read that and then you just teleported, you'll have no idea what to do. So to find out, you'll have to run all the way back to the entrance of the city to trigger the dialogue that's then going to tell you what you're supposed to be doing.
I think Abstract would heavily support this game. Obviously, it's like the best game on their platform, I feel like.
The game just has so much potential. Like, it's so fun, dude. It's good. It really is.
Yeah, it really does.
That's look at the building. Oh my god!
This is the first game, in my opinion, that I got addicted to in Web3. Like
one of the best Web3 games I've ever played.
No, he's insane. No, don't go. Don't click it. Don't click it.
It's happening. It's happening.
No! Oh!
So far, this game has been nuts.
Alright, and we are here live on Abstract to open the crazy.
I'll say this, if I had enough funds, I would buy the NFT. Because the way that this game is running, the team, everything kind of around it, and what.
You can't get hit. For example, oh my god, I'm fucking dead, man.
I can't believe these NFTs aren't higher.
Because I know I'm gonna enjoy the game.
I'm super, yeah, the Darknet is super fun. That's what I'm in right now.
Fuck. I should have just bought one of the NFTs. I looked at them like a month ago too, and they were like 0.1.
Yeah. I should have bought them.
That motherfucker's running after me, brother.
Yo, you're running from my heel. Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's running. Yo, help me out, bro.
I healed you. What do you mean? You helped me. Kill him.
He was about to kill me.
Why didn't you just attack him? He didn't have any help. But
I couldn't.
What about you, Noel? Will you be reset too? I'm not certain. My consciousness exists across multiple planes. I may retain more, or I may be more vulnerable. We'll find out together.
FOMO Phil, bro, that's a good tweet. Yeah.
What?
He said, I can honestly say that the 77-bit is the closest I've been to legit gaming addiction from any Web3 game since I've been in crypto.
Oh yeah, for sure.